happened to my tracking? Wait. Okay. Oh, here I am. Hello. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, Hime. Hello, everybody. Sorry I was late. I was trying to find this book. Oops. Ugh, my tea set. Trying to find this book in my room. Which, admittedly, I do need to clean. But I found it. Yes, I have the physical book. I have the Do you hear me? Do you hear me flipping the pages? I'm gonna be reading from the physical book. Yes, hello. What drink are we drinking today? Today we have a lovely rosehip tea. Yes. An actual physical book from the 1800s? No, it's not a physical book from the 1800s. That would that would cost a lot. And it'd probably be in a museum or something. Who knows? But I did get the. It better not be a Rickroll book. It's not a Rickroll book. Don't worry. Give me a second. Let me make this. Hold on. Okay, there we go. And thank you for the 2-month memby. Wait, I think there were some that I missed earlier. Let me check, real quick. Yeah, Salakonis, thank you for 2 months memby. Dude, if the... if the one isn't here, I swear. I don't know how I was supposed to voice muffled gorilla violence, but I hope that was close enough. Such a cozy atmosphere you've made here. Yeah, isn't it cozy? It's nice, isn't it? I think you nailed it. Did you... Wait, hold on. Gorillas don't... what noise do gorillas make? That's a monkey. Okay, but, Takun 10, Wicked Ants, Makusu, Deep Deeper, Lord of Ashes, and Cyberkstan. Welcome back to Primavito! Welcome to Primavito! And Roaring John, thank you for a 1-month memby. Yippee! Wait, no yippies allowed. Is your voice feeling a bit better? Do you hear the... do you hear the hoarseness? Oh my god, Caffey? A pudding? A pudding? Hi, thank you for human tax. Human tax, 고맙습니다. And Long Arms says, thank you, Human Love. Hope you're into Conan Doyle Sherlock stories as much as I am. Speak Victorian 19th century. Okay, so, the book that I have today for you is literally called 19... It's the new Windmill book of 19th century short stories. And there is a content... oh, hi! Saya! Hello, welcome! Thank you for the raid. Welcome. Hello, fire starters. Hello, welcome. My name is Himemiya Rie from Facing Like Gen 2 Face Alias, and today we are reading some stories. And happy Mother's Day! It is Mother's Day today. But I celebrate with my mom next week because she's busy this week. She's not home this week. So, I'm gonna plan a surprise for her. So, Silas Chaz called... I'm not sure, I think you guys are Fireflies? I don't quite remember from her debut. I think it was Fireflies. But yes. as we were speaking of... Oh, Bella, thank you for the one gifted. Thank you, thank you. I have alerts. Where are my alerts? Hime beam. I should mute the Hime beams. It's not very even. Firefly. Ooh, ooh. You have many names. Yeah, I was like, I don't remember which one. Okay, but we were talking about the different stories that are in this book. Let me go to the contents page. So there are quite a few collections of stories here. I think there's one or two that I specifically wanted to read to you guys. That are my favorite. But aside from that, we have... Okay, I'm gonna read the contents out. We have The Unexpected by 𝐃𝐨𝐧𝐬. We have Tony Kite's The Ark Deceiver by Thomas Hardy. News of the Engagement by Arnold Bennett. The Half-Brothers by Elizabeth Gaskell. Country Living by Guy de Maupassant. Van Bibber's Burglar by Richard H. Davis. The Nightingale and the Rose by Oscar Wilde. The Woman's Rose by Olive Schreiner. The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. 26 Men and a Girl by Maxim Gorky. The Poor Relation Story by Charles Dickens. Lou the Prophet by Willa Cather. The Stolen Basilisk by H.G. Wells. Hopfrog by Edgar Allan Poe. Napoleon and the Spectre by Charlotte Bronte. And Arrest by Ambrose Bierce. And The Adventure of the Speckled Band by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So the ones I wanted to read to you today specifically were The Nightingale and the Rose, The Yellow Wallpaper, and The Adventure of the Speckled Band. I chose 3 for today, so we're gonna read those 3. Yellow Wallpaper is so good. It really is. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, when I was in middle school and high school, surprisingly, English was my best subject. English was my favorite subject and my best subject. And I don't know what happened, but over time, my literacy has declined. But I do enjoy myself some English literature a lot. Classy, yeah. Very good. 𝐒𝐴 조주. Weeb shit happened. I think just like being away from high school makes you dumber. Like not even joking. You start reading, but I started reading AO3 when I was like in year 8. I think we all just grew dumber after leaving high school because there's no real like reason to study. Or like after leaving college. But even when I'm in college, like even in uni, you don't really have to use the same kind of studying methods as you did in high school. Like you don't have to cram and you don't really have to study, or at least not in my major. So I feel like I grew dumber. Yeah, the brain rot. But were any of you guys ever labeled as like the quote-unquote prodigy child when you were younger? Like, because you read a lot? Or you were like really good at something when you were younger? No. I'm white? Of course not. Okay, that aside, but yeah. For me, because I liked reading when I was a kid, it was just easier, and I think it was just early onset ADHD and autism. I liked reading as a child, and so like I think my reading level was way above my age group at the time, and that's why they called me a quote-unquote prodigy child. But then like as I grew older, I realized they're like, wait, we kind of fucked up on this one. Yeah, I think when we were younger, we used to literally like devour books in like a day or two. So there's gonna be a pop quiz later asking in our own world why the wallpaper was yellow? No, but I'll do some analysis of the stories after we finish reading. The paper tasted fresh? Yeah. Literally sit in class and read through every book in the library. Me too. I remember reading through the entire Harry Potter series when I was 5 or 6. Because my mother got it for me as a birthday gift on my 5th birthday. And I devoured that so fast. Book club? Is this book club? Okay. But anyways, let's start with this one. The Nightingale and the Rose. Let me find it. Okay, got it. Also, is everything with the audio okay? Is the music too loud, too soft, the ambience okay? Is my mic alright as well? Knocked over something, oops. Except for that, yeah. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay, alright. Well then, let us begin. The Nightingale and the Rose by Oscar Wilde. She promised she'd dance with me if I brought her a red rose, cried a young, heartbroken student. But there's not one in this whole garden. From her nest in the oak tree, the nightingale heard him, and she looked out through the leaves and wondered. Not a single red rose anywhere, he cried, and his eyes filled with tears. It's amazing how happiness depends on such little things. I've read that all the wise men have written, and all the secrets of philosophy, and my life is wretched because of a red rose. Here at last is a true romantic, said the nightingale. Night after night I have sung of him, though I didn't realize it. Night after night I have told his story to the stars, and now I see him. Let me do that real quick. Now, reading Nightingale and the Rose. Okay. Let me pin that. Okay, back to the story. Night after night, I have told his story to the stars, and now I see him. The prince gives a ball tomorrow night, murmured the young student. And my love will be there. If I bring her a red rose, she'll dance with me till dawn. If I bring her a red rose, I'll get to hold her in my arms, and she'll lean her head on my shoulder, and her hand will be clasped in mine. But there's no red rose in the garden, and so instead, I'll sit by myself while she passes me by. She'll pay no attention to me, and my heart will break. Here indeed is a true romantic, said Nightingale. Surely love is a wonderful thing. It's more precious than emeralds and diamonds and gold. The musicians will play their instruments, said the student. And my love will dance to the sound of the violin, but she won't dance with me, because I have no red rose to give her. And he flung himself down on the grass, buried his face in his hands, and wept. Why is he weeping? Asked the butterfly, who was fluttering about after a sunbeam. He's weeping for a red rose, said the nightingale. For a red rose? Cried the butterfly. How ridiculous! But the nightingale understood the secret of the student's sorrow, and she sat silently in the oak tree and thought about the mystery of love. Suddenly, she spread her brown wings and soared into the air. She passed through the grove like a shadow and sailed across the garden. In the center of the grass stood a beautiful rose tree, and when she saw it, she flew over and landed on a branch. Give me a red rose, she cried, and I'll sing you my sweetest song." But the tree shook its head. "My roses are white," it said. "But go to my brother who grows near the fountain, and perhaps he'll give you what you want." So the nightingale flew over to the rose tree by the fountain. "Give me a red rose," she cried, "and I will sing you my sweetest song." But the tree shook its head. "My roses are yellow," it answered. "But go to my brother who grows beneath the student's window, and perhaps he'll give you what you want." So the nightingale flew over to the rose tree that was growing beneath the student's window and repeated her request for the rose. But this tree also shook its head. "My roses are red," it answered. "But the winter has chilled my veins, and the frost has nipped my buds, and the storm has broken my branches, and I'll have no roses at all this year." "One red rose is all I want," cried the nightingale. "Is there no way I can get it?" "There is a way," answered the tree. "But it's so terrible, I can't tell you." "Tell me," said the nightingale. "I'm not afraid." "If you want a red rose," said the tree, "you must build it out of music by moonlight and make it red with your own heart's blood. You must sing to me with your breast against a thorn, and your blood must flow into my veins and become mine." "Death is a great price to pay for a red rose," cried the nightingale. "Yet love is better than life. And what is the heart of the bird compared to the heart of a man?" So she spread her brown wings and soared into the air. She swept over the garden like a shadow, and like a shadow, she sailed through the grove. The young student was lying on the grass where she had left him, and the tears were not yet dry in his eyes. "Be happy," cried the nightingale. "You shall have your red rose. I'll build it out of music by moonlight and stain it with my own heart's blood. All I ask of you in return is that you will be a true romantic, for love is wiser than philosophy." The student looked up from the grass and listened, but he could not understand what the nightingale was saying, for he only knew the things that are written in books. But the oak tree understood and felt sad, for he was very fond of the little nightingale who had built her nest in his branches. "Sing me one last song," he whispered. "I'll be lonely when you're gone." So the nightingale sang to the oak tree, and her voice was like water bubbling from a silver jar. When she had finished her song, the student got up, went to his room and began to think of his love. After a time, he fell asleep. And when the moon shone in the heavens, the nightingale flew to the rose tree and set her breast against a thorn. All night long, she sang against the thorn, and the cold moon leaned down and listened. She sang of the birth of love in the hearts of a boy and a girl. And on the top branch of the rose tree, there blossomed a marvelous rose, petal after petal, as song followed song. It was pale at first, but grew darker as the birds sang louder, and a delicate flush of pink came over the leaves. But the thorn had not yet reached her heart, and so the rose's heart remained white, for only a nightingale's blood can make the heart of a rose red. Her song grew wider as she sang of love, and the marvelous rose became crimson like an eastern sky. But the nightingale's voice grew fainter, and her little wings began to beat fast. Then she gave one last burst of music. The white moon heard it, and she forgot the dawn and lingered on in the sky. The red rose heard it, and it trembled all over with ecstasy, and opened its petals to the cold morning air. "Look!" cried the tree. "The rose is finished now." But the nightingale made no answer, for she was lying dead in the long grass, with the thorn in her heart. And at noon, the student opened his window and looked out. "Why, what a wonderful piece of luck!" he cried. "Here is a red rose. I've never seen a rose like this all my life. It's so beautiful." And he leaned down and plucked it. Then he put on his hat and ran up to his professor's house, the rose in his hand. The daughter of the professor was sitting in the doorway, and her little dog was lying at her feet. "You said you would dance with me if I brought you a red rose," cried the student. "Here's the reddest rose in all the world. You'll wear it tonight next to your heart, and as we dance together, it will tell you how much I love you." But the girl frowned. "I'm afraid it won't go with my dress," she answered. "And the prince's nephew has sent me some jewels, which cost far more than flowers." "How ungrateful," said the student angrily, and he threw the rose into the street, where it fell into the gutter. "What a silly thing love is," he thought, as he walked away. "It's not half as useful as logic, and in fact, it's quite impractical. I shall go back to philosophy." And so he returned to his room and pulled out a dusty book and began to read. That was The Nightingale and the Rose. How did you like that? Died for nothing. No, Hima bird! Hima bird! Pretty sad. Yeah. Fucked up ending, for real. The nightingale discovered true love while the student never knew it in the first place. Yeah. Alright. So we have a few themes in we have a few themes in the story, but I think the most prominent theme is that of the nature of love. I think it's about discovering true love, and like you said, how the nightingale, who is basically a third party, you know, like had no affiliation with them. It's about love and sacrifice, and I think what else? Making choices. What is love? Yeah. I think the nightingale is the true lover. She is the embodiment of romance. Yeah, how love can be a fickle thing. It's also, yeah, unwarranted sacrifice. It's not like the student asked the nightingale to sacrifice herself for him, but she did it anyways, and I think that is why she is the true lover. Why did you choose love as a theme today? It's not really as a theme, it's just... This short story is one of my favorite ones, and I wanted to read it to you first. I wanted to share it with you first. I think, yeah. The Nightingale and the Rose is about love, and how the nightingale believes in true love, but gives her life in the pointless gesture. Because the the single rose that stems from her sacrifice did not achieve what it was designed to achieve and is just discarded like trash by the students after rejection. I think a lot of Oscar Wilde's stories are about characters sacrificing themselves as well. Like, The Happy Prince. He allows... I don't know if you've read that one. He allows himself to be dismantled piece by piece to help the needy in the city. Kind of similar to, like, Hans Christian Andersen. So yeah, very, very fitting. I think it's about, like, how love is not always... Like, some people think love is spontaneous, and while it can be a whim of the moment thing. Oscar Wilde sees it as something that must be created by a fusion of things, like they mentioned the fusion of the Nightingale song, the power of nature, and the willingness of self-sacrifice. So I guess if you see it this way, her sacrifice wasn't pointless in the end because it produced a work of art. And a lot of artists often talk about, like, putting a lot of themselves into their art, pouring their heart out, or giving themselves to their art. So I think maybe this is him saying, like, you know, the end product doesn't always have to be the objective. Oscar Wilde, yeah, he's kind of like a tragic character in of himself. I think the problem is, and Oscar Wilde does identify this when he, at the end, when he shows the scholar his reaction to rejection. I think he's trying to say that the world, or at least the modern world, is too logic-oriented and practical-minded to appreciate art for its own sake. If I remember correctly, the 19th century was when aestheticism, which is basically what he's trying to embody here, art for art's sake, not for a bigger purpose or for a practical reason, but just to create art. Aestheticism was born in the 19th century, and Wilde was a prominent spokesperson or figure of this movement. So I think in here he's kind of criticizing that of the modern world, that it doesn't appreciate art for art's sake. Let's see, what else did I have noted here? Really have a future as an English teacher? Me as an English teacher? I always wonder what people from that era would think if they saw what the world was like today. Yeah, feed a Victorian child a single Dorito and watch them start tweaking. Latera was the papa of the movement and was Oscar's professor. Yeah, I think that was right. Oscar Wilde, Wilde took on the mantle of that and pushed for art's sake a lot afterwards. Jerry's, thank you. It's the nature of unrequited love. Yeah.
It's the nature of unrequited love. How one can go to great lengths for it, only for it to be denied.
But I think that's a risk that the Nightingale was willing to take. Because how do you say it? The thought of not having achieved this love at all, or not even trying, not even giving it a chance, she didn't want to take that chance. Instead, even if it would fail, she would rather sacrifice herself for love. Yeah, she wasn't expecting anything in return as well. All she wanted was to see the true love. I wish you were my classmate. I pay you to do my homework. Would rather take the risk and fail and not try at all. Yes, and she also sees herself as lesser than the scholar. What is the heart of a nightingale compared to that of a man? See, this story contains many of the features that we usually associate with traditional fairy tales, like a hero, a love interest, and a companion. But they're subverted in the story. He makes the student very unromantic and pragmatic, and the love interest is fickle and materialistic. Are you sure you are my middle school English teacher? Hey, if VTubing doesn't work out, I guess you'll see me in public school. In Wilde's mind, there is no greater crime than destroying something beautiful. That is the essence of the aestheticism movement as well, where art, the beauty of art takes, how do you say it? It takes precedence over everything. Our kids are in safe hands. Yeah, like in fairy tales, the hero usually, like, you would see, like, for example, in Aladdin, he has to convince the Sultan that he's fit to marry the Sultan's daughter by giving, like, gold and jewels and everything. Usually the hero has to give a special gift to win the heart and hand of the heroine, but usually this is just because to impress the girl's father rather than the girl himself. But in this story, it's the girl herself, not her father, who rejects the hero's gift when it's not enough for her, when someone has a more expensive and impressive present for her. So, I guess here the gift represents something that's not a dowry, which will guarantee that the hero can keep the daughter, or like that she can take it, like that the hero can take the daughter from her family. But more of a token of affection. Okay. I think that's about what I have to say about this story. I really do like it. You know, put the story into the context it was written at. What were the current trends of the world at the what were the current trends of the world at the time? Yeah. I think this story, let me see when it was written. It was included in his 1888 collection, The Happy Prince and Other Tales. And a lot of the other stories, like the title story, The Happy Prince, is about like socialism and kindness and self-sacrifice towards society. This one in particular is about romantic love. It was not 1888. Peak of the Victorian era. I think was this during... It was around the end of the industrial era. It was published after the industrial era. So a lot of things were, you know, people were focused on working and, you know, the grind and everything. The thing I see from the story was that the girl wasn't ever interested into the guy, since she asked for an impossible task as a way to reject him without doing it. The tale is doomed from the start. I don't think it was an impossible task. I think the class difference between the two, because he is a student, he's a scholar, which isn't like, say, a peasant, but still, like, you know, not a rich, right? And she is the professor's daughter. She is, you know, probably more well off. She would probably just see like, oh, if you want to give me a red rose, just buy one. That's why she mentioned the flowers not being expensive, because she'd expected him to buy it, to just purchase the flowers. Which I guess is also another interesting way to see like love, as like transactional or materialistic. The industrial grind set and its consequences. Yeah. It's less about the fact that the Nightingale's rose didn't get accepted, and more so that she did the sacrifice in the first place. Yeah, because her sacrifice was not conditional. That was the thing that she did. That is true unconditional love. Because she saw him as a true romantic, and she thinks that love is more precious than any jewel, more precious than emeralds and diamonds and gold. So it is for this that she will sacrifice herself, because she sees love as this pure thing that, above all, wins. Now we can say it's an extremely selfish view. I suppose it's selfish too, in the sense that, how do I say this? It's kind of like how people call people that, you know, commit suicide selfish, because they don't think about others. They don't think about the effect or the consequences that it might have on the people around them that love them. And you can see that here with the oak tree, which mentioned that like the oak tree will be lonely when she's gone. I think in that sense you could say it's selfish. Okay, but enough yapping. Enough yapping about this story. You guys tell that I really do like this. I really do like this story. Okay, alright. The next one, it is fun to yap. It is fun. But I have more stories to read to you guys. Next one is the Yellow Wallpaper by... who is it by? Let me see. By Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Now reading. I feel like I should know this one. I think a lot of people have read this one. Because it's about a woman like literally skitzing out 19th century backrooms. Yeah. Also, let me eat my kiwi. I'm gonna eat some of my kiwi. Yeah, maybe you've read it in school, or you've seen memes about it. With the skin on? No. My grandmother cut me some fruit this morning, and I have yet to eat it, because I was busy setting up for stream. Cannibalism, but I'm not a kiwi! Kiwi gonna help the throat? Does kiwi soothe the throat? I don't know. Yeah, cutting up fruit. When your Asian family cuts up fruit for you, you know that's true love. Okay. Alright. This one, by the way, is in first person, so it's a little different from the previous one. You kind of have to imagine yourself as a woman in the 19th century for this. Okay. The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It is very seldom that mere ordinary people like John and myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate, I would say, a haunted house, and reach the heights of romantic felicity. But that would be asking too much of fate. Still, I will proudly declare that there is something queer about it. Else, why should it be let so cheaply? And why have stood so long untenanted? John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. John is practical in the extreme. He has no patience with faith, an intense horror of superstition, and he scoffs openly at any talk of things not to be felt and seen and put down in figures. John is a physician, and perhaps, I would not say it to a living soul, of course, but this is dead paper and a great relief to my mind. Perhaps that is one reason I do not get well faster. You see, he does not believe I am sick. And what can one do? If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and relatives that there is really nothing the matter with one but temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency. What is one to do? My brother is also a physician and also of high standing, and he says the same thing. So I take phosphates or phosphites, whichever it is, and tonics and journeys and air and exercise, and I'm absolutely forbidden to work until I am well again. Personally, I disagree with their ideas. Personally, I believe that congenial work with excitement and change would do me good. But what is one to do? I did write for a while in spite of them, but it does exhaust me a good deal, having to be so sly about it or else meet with heavy opposition. I sometimes fancy that in my condition, if I had less opposition and more society and stimulus. But John says the very worst thing I can do is to think about my condition, and I confess it always does make me feel bad. So I will let it alone and talk about the house. A most beautiful place. It is quite alone, standing well back from the road, quite 3 miles from the village. It makes me think of English places that you read about, for there are hedges and walls and gates and gates that lock, and lots of separate little house for the gardeners and people. There is a delicious garden. I never saw such a garden. Large and shady, full of box-boarded paths, and lined with long grape-covered arbors with seats under them. There are greenhouses too, but they're all broken now. There was some legal trouble, I believe, something about the hares and co-hares. Anyhow, the place has been empty for years. That spoils my ghostliness, I'm afraid. But I don't care. There is something strange about the house. I can feel it. I even said so to John one moonlight evening. But he said what I felt was a draught and shut the window. I get unreasonably angry with John sometimes. I'm sure I never used to be so sensitive. I think it is due to this nervous condition. But John says, if I feel so, I shall neglect proper self-control, so I take pains to control myself. Before him, at least. And that makes me very tired. I don't like our room one bit. I wanted one downstairs that opened on the piazza, and had roses all over the window and such pretty old-fashioned hangings. But John would not hear of it. He said there was only one window and not room for 2 beds, and no near room for him if he took another. He is very careful and loving, and hardly lets me stir without special direction. I have a scheduled prescription for each hour in the day. He takes all care for me, and so I feel basely ungrateful not to value it more. He said we came here solely on my account, that I was to have perfect rest and all the air I could get. Your exercise depends on your strength, my dear, said he, and your food somewhat on your appetite, but air you can absorb all the time. So we took the nursery at the top of the house. It is a big, airy room, the whole floor nearly with windows that look all ways, and air and sunshine galore. It was nursery first and then playroom and gymnasium, I should judge, for the windows are barred for little children, and there are rings and things in the walls. The paint and paper look as if a boys' school had used it. It is stripped off, the paper, in grey patches all around the head of my bed, about as far as I can reach, and in a grey place on the other side of the room low down. I never saw worse paper in my life. One of those sprawling flamboyant patterns committing every artistic sin. It is dull enough to confuse the eye in following, pronounced enough to constantly irritate and provoke study, and when you follow the lame, uncertain curves for a little distance, you suddenly commit suicide, plunge off at outrageous angles, destroy themselves in unheard of contradictions. Water check. Tea check. The color is repellent, almost revolting. A smoldering, unclean yellow, strangely faded by the slow-turning sunlight. It is a dull yet lurid orange in some places, a sickly sulphur tint in others. No wonder the children hated it. I should hate it myself if I had to live in this room long. There comes John, and I must put this away. He hates to have me write a word. We have been here 2 weeks, and I haven't felt like writing before since that first day. I am sitting by the window now, up in this atrocious nursery, and there's nothing to hinder my writing as much as I please, save lack of strength. I'm glad my case is not serious, but these nervous troubles are dreadfully depressing. John does not know how much I really suffer. He knows there's no reason to suffer, and that satisfies him. Of course it is only nervousness. It does weigh on me so to not do my duty in any way. I meant to be such a help to John, such a real rest and comfort, and here I am a comparative burden already. Nobody would believe what an effort it is to do what little I am able, to dress and entertain and order things. It is fortunate Mary is so good with the baby. Such a dear baby. And yet I cannot be with him. It makes me so nervous. I suppose John never was nervous in his life. He laughs at me so about this wallpaper. At first, he meant to repaper the room, but afterwards he said that I was letting it get the better of me, and that nothing was worse for a nervous patient than to give way to such fancies. He said that after the wallpaper was changed, it would be the heavy bedstead, and then the barred windows, and then that gate of the head of the stairs, and so on. You know the place is doing you good, he said. And really, dear, I don't care to renovate the house just for a 3 months rental. Then do let us go downstairs, I said. There's such pretty rooms there. And then he took me in his arms and called me a blessed little goose, and said he would go down to the cellar if I wished and have it whitewashed into the bargain. But he is right enough about the beds and windows and things. It is an airy and comfortable room as any one need wish, and of course, I would not be so silly as to make him uncomfortable just for a whim. I'm really getting quite fond of the big room. All but that horrid paper. Out of one window, I can see the garden. Those mysterious deep-shaded arbors, the riotous old-fashioned flowers, and bushes and gnarly trees. Out of another, I get a lovely view of the bay and a little private wharf belonging to the estate. There's a beautiful shaded lane that runs down there from the house. I always fancy I see people walking in these numerous paths and arbors, but John has cautioned me not to give way to fancy in the least. He says that with my imaginative power and habit of story-making, a nervous weakness like mine is sure to lead to all manner of excited fancies, and that I ought to use my will and good sense to check the tendency. So I try. I think that sometimes, if I were only well enough to write a little, it would relieve depressive ideas and rest me. But I find I get pretty tired when I try. It is so discouraging not to have any advice and companionship about my work. When I get really well, John says we will ask Cousin Henry and Julia down for a long visit. But he says he would as soon put fireworks in my pillowcase as to let me have those stimulating people about now. I wish I could get well faster. But I must not think about that. This paper looks to me as if it knew what a vicious influence it had. There is a recurrent spot where the pattern lolls like a broken neck, and 2 bulbous eyes stare at you upside down. I get positively angry with the impertinence of it and the everlastingness. Up and down and sideways they crawl, and those absurd unblinking eyes are everywhere. There's one place where 2 breaths didn't match, and the eyes go all up and down the line, one a little higher than the other. I never saw so much expression in an inanimate thing before, and we all know how much expression they have. I used to lie awake as a child and get more entertainment and terror out of blank walls and plain furniture than most children could find in a toy store. I remember what a kindly wink the knobs of our big old bureau used to have, and there was one chair that always seemed like a strong friend. I used to feel that if any of the other things looked too fierce, I could always hop into that chair and be safe. The furniture in this room is no worse than inharmonious, however, for we had to bring it all from downstairs. I suppose when this was used as a playroom, they had to take the nursery things out. And no wonder! I never saw such ravages as the children have made in here. The wallpaper, as I said before, is torn off in spots, and it sticketh closer than a brother. He must have had perseverance as well as hatred. Then the floor is scratched and gouged and splintered. The plaster itself is dug out here and there, and this great heavy bed, which is all we found in the room, looks as if it had been through the wars. But I don't mind it a bit. Like the paper. There comes John's sister. Such a dear girl as she is, and so careful of me. I must not let her find me writing. She is a perfect and enthusiastic housekeeper, and hopes for no better profession. I verily believe she thinks it is the writing which made me sick. But I can write when she is out, and see her a long way off from these windows. There is one that commands the road, a lovely shaded winding road, and one that looks just off over the country. A lovely country too, full of great elms and velvet meadows. This wallpaper has a kind of sub-pattern in a different shade, a particularly irritating one, for you can only see in certain lights, and not clearly then. But in the places where it isn't faded, and where the sun is just so, I can see a strange, provoking, formless sort of figure. It seems to skulk about behind that silly and conspicuous front design. There's Sister on the stairs! Okay, let me have a break to blow my nose. Let's listen. No way. No way. Ain't no way. Okay. Anyways. On to the next part. Well, the 4th of July is over. The people are gone and I am tired out. John thought it might do me good to see a little company, so he just had Mother and Nellie and the children down for a week. Of course, I didn't do a thing. Jenny ceased everything now, but it tired me all the same. John says if I don't pick up faster, he shall send me to War Mitchell in the fall. But I don't want to go there at all. I had a friend who was in his hands once, and he says he's just like John and my brother, only more so. Besides, it is such an undertaking to go so far. I don't feel as if it was worthwhile to turn my hand over for anything. And I'm getting dreadfully fretful and careless. I cry at nothing and cry most of the time. Of course I don't when John is here or anybody else, but when I am alone. And I am alone a good deal just now. John is kept in town very often by serious cases, and Jenny is good and lets me alone when I want her to. So I walk a little in the garden or down that lovely lane, sit on the porch under the roses, and lie down up here a good deal. I'm getting really fond of the room in spite of the wallpaper. Perhaps because of the wallpaper. It dwells in my mind so. I lie here on this great immovable bed. It is nailed down, I believe, and follow that pattern about by the hour. It is as good as gymnastics, I assure you. I start, we'll say, at the bottom, down in the corner over there where it has not been touched, and I determine for the 1000th time that I will follow that pointless pattern to some sort of a conclusion. I know a little of the principle of design, and I know this thing was not arranged on any laws of radiation, or alternation, or repetition, or symmetry, or anything else that I ever heard of. It is repeated, of course, by the breadths, but not otherwise. Looked at in one way, each breath stands alone. The bloated curves and flourishes, a kind of debased Romanesque, with delirium tremens, waddling up and down in isolated columns of fatuity. But on the other hand, they connect diagonally, and the sprawling outlines run off in great slanting waves of optic horror, like a lot of wallowing seaweeds in full chase. The whole thing goes horizontally too, at least it seems so, and I exhaust myself in trying to distinguish the order of its going in that direction. They have used a horizontal breadth for a frieze, and that adds wonderfully to the confusion. There is one end of the room where it is almost intact, and there, where the crosslights fade and the low sun shines directly upon it. It almost fancy radiation after all. The interminable grotesque seem to form around a common center and rush off in headlong plunges of equal distraction. Makes me tired to follow it. I will take a nap, I guess. I don't know why I should write this. I don't want to. I don't feel able. And I know John would think it absurd, but I must say what I feel and think in some way. It is such a relief. But the effort is getting to be greater than the relief. Half the time now, I am awfully lazy and lie down ever so much. John says I mustn't lose my strength and has me take cod liver oil and lots of tonics and things, to say nothing of ale and wine and rare meat. Dear John, he loves me very dearly and hates to have me sick. I tried to have a real, earnest, reasonable talk with him the other day and tell him how I wish he would let me go and make a visit to Cousin Henry and Julia. But he said I wasn't able to go, nor able to stand it after I got there, and I did not make out a very good case for myself, for I was crying before I had finished. It is getting to be a great effort for me to think straight. Just this nervous weakness, I suppose. And dear John gathered me up in his arms and just carried me upstairs and laid me on the bed and sat by me and read to me till it tired my head. He said I was his darling and his comfort and all he had, and I must take care of myself for his sake and keep well. He says no one but myself can help me out of it, that I must use my will and self-control and not let any silly fancies run away with me. There's one comfort. The baby is well and happy, and does not have to occupy this nursery with the horrid wallpaper. If we had not used it, that blessed child would have. What a fortunate escape. Why, I wouldn't have a child of mine, an impressionable little thing, live in such a room for worlds. I never thought of it before, but it is lucky that John kept me here. After all, I can stand it so much easier than the baby, you see. Of course, I never mention it to them anymore. I'm too wise. But I keep watch of it all the same. There are things in that paper that nobody knows but me, or ever will. Behind that outside pattern, the dim shapes get clearer every day. It is always the same shape, only very numerous. And it is like a woman stooping down and creeping about behind that pattern. I don't like it a bit. I wonder, I begin to think, I wish John would take me away from here. It is so hard to talk with John about my case, because he is so wise, and because he loves me so. But I tried it last night. It was moonlight. The moon shines in all around, just as the sun does. I hate to see it sometimes. It creeps so slowly, and always comes in by one window or another. John was asleep and I hated to waken him, so I kept still and watched the moonlight on that undulating wallpaper till I felt creepy. The faint figure behind seemed to shake the pattern, just as if she wanted to get out. I got up softly and went to feel to see if the paper did move. When I came back, John was awake. "What is it, little girl?" he said. "Don't go walking about like that. You'll get cold." I thought it was a good time to talk, so I told him that I really was not gaining here, and I wished he would take me away. "Oh, my darling," said he, "our lease will be up in 3 weeks, and I can't see how to leave before. The repairs are not done at home, and I cannot possibly leave town just now. Of course, if you were in any danger, I could and would, But you really are better, dear, whether you can see it or not. I am a doctor, dear, and I know. You are gaining flesh and color. Your appetite is better. I feel really much easier about you. I don't weigh a bit more, said I. Nor as much. My appetite may be better in the evening when you're here, but it is worse in the morning when you're away. Bless her little heart, said he with a big hug. She shall be sick as she pleases. But now let's improve the shining hours by going to sleep and talk about it in the morning. And you won't go away? I asked gloomily. Why, how can I, dear? It is only 3 weeks more, and then we will take a nice little trip of a few days while Jenny is getting the house ready. Really, dear, you are better. Better in body, perhaps, I began, and stopped short, for he sat up straight and looked at me with such a stern, reproachful look that I could not say another word. My darling, said he, I beg of you, for my sake and for our child's sake, as well as for your own, that you will never for an instant let that idea enter your mind. There is nothing so dangerous, so fascinating to a temperament like yours. It is a false and foolish fancy. Can you not trust me as a physician when I tell you so? So of course I said no more on that score, and we went to sleep before long. He thought I was asleep first, but I wasn't, and lay there for hours trying to decide whether that front pattern and the back pattern really did move together or separately. On a pattern like this, by daylight, there is a lack of sequence, a defiance of law, that is a constant irritant to a normal mind. The color is hideous enough, and unreliable enough, and infuriating enough, but the pattern is torturing. You think you have mastered it, but just as you get well underway in following, it turns a back somersault, and there you are. It slaps you in the face, knocks you down, and tramples upon you. It is like a bad dream. The outside pattern is a florid arabesque, reminding one of a fungus. If you can imagine a toadstool in joints, an interminable string of toadstools, building, budding, and sprouting in endless convolutions, oh, why, that is something like it. That is, sometimes. There is one marked peculiarity about this paper, a thing nobody seems to notice but myself, and that is, it changes as the light changes. When the sun shoots in through the east window, I always watch for that first long straight way. It changes so quickly that I can never quite believe it. That is why I watch it always. By moonlight, the moon shines in all nights when there is a moon. I wouldn't know it was the same paper. At night, in any kind of light. In twilight, candlelight, lamplight, and worst of all, by moonlight, it becomes bars. The outside pattern, I mean. And the woman behind it is as plain as can be. I didn't realize for a long time the thing was that showed behind that dim sub-pattern. But now I am quite sure it is a woman. By daylight, she is subdued, quiet. I fancy it is the pattern that keeps her so still. It is so puzzling. It keeps me quiet by the hour. Another break to blow my nose. Okay. Alright, we're nearing the final chapter, or I guess the final arc of her schizophrenia. Okay. I lie down ever so much now. John says it is good for me, and to sleep all I can. Indeed, he started the habit by making me lie down for an hour after each meal. It is a very bad habit, I am convinced, for you see, I don't sleep. And that cultivates deceit, for I don't tell them I'm awake. Oh no! The fact is, I am getting a little afraid of John. He seems very queer sometimes. And even Jenny has an inexplicable look. It strikes me occasionally, just as a scientific hypothesis, that perhaps it is the paper. I have watched John when he did not know I was looking, and come into the room suddenly on the most innocent excuses, and I've caught him several times looking at the paper. And Jenny too. I caught Jenny with her hand on it once. She didn't know I was in the room, and when I asked her in a quiet, very quiet voice, with the most restrained manner possible, what she was doing with the paper, she turned around as if she had been caught stealing and looked quite angry. Asked me why I should frighten her so. Then she said that the paper stained everything it touched, and she had found yellow smooches on all my clothes and John's, and she wished that we would be more careful. Did not that sound innocent? But I know she was studying that pattern. I am determined that nobody shall find it out but myself. Life is very much more exciting now than it used to be. You see, I have something more to expect, to look forward to watch. I really do eat better and am more quiet than I was. John is so pleased to see me improve. He laughed a little the other day and said I seemed to be flourishing in spite of my wallpaper. I turned it off with a laugh. I had no intention of telling him it was because of the wallpaper. He would make fun of me. He might even want to take me away. Small tea break. I don't want to leave now until I have found it out. There is a week more. I think that will be enough. I'm feeling ever so much better. I don't sleep much at night, for it is so interesting to watch the developments. But I sleep a good deal in the daytime. In the daytime, it is tiresome and perplexing. There are always new shoots in the fungus, and new shades of yellow all over it. I cannot keep count of them, though. I have tried conscientiously. It is the strangest yellow, that wallpaper. It makes me think of all the yellow things I ever saw. Not beautiful ones like buttercups, but old, foul, bad yellow things. But there's something else about that paper. The smell. I noticed it the moment we came into the room, but with so much air and sun, it was not bad. Now, we have had a week of fog and rain, and whether the windows are open or not, the smell is here. It creeps all over the house. I find it hovering in the dining room, skulking in the parlor, hiding in the hall, lying in wait for me on the stairs. It gets into my hair. Even when I go to ride, if I turn my head suddenly and surprise it, there is that smell! Such a peculiar odor, too. I have spent hours in trying to analyze it, to find what it smelled like. It is not bad, at first, and very gentle, but quite the subtlest, most enduring odor I have ever met. In this damp weather, it is awful. I wake up in the night and find it hanging over me. It used to disturb me at first. I thought seriously of burning the house to reach the smell. But now, I'm used to it. The only thing I can think of that is like it's the color of the paper. A yellow smell. There is a very funny mark on this wall, low down, near the mopboard. A streak that runs around the room. It goes behind every piece of furniture, except the bed. A long, straight, even smooch. As if it had been rubbed over and over. Give me a second. Is my mono lagging a bit at times? A girl swamp smell. The smell of the yellow wallpaper. tiny bit. Yeah, I figured. Okay, maybe this will help. Just a smidge. Just a smidge. Okay. Hopefully this will help. I don't notice it. I think I notice it sometimes, but it should be fine. Okay. Where were we? Let's see. Okay. I wonder how it was done and who did it and what they did it for. Round and round and round and round. Round and round and round and round. It makes me dizzy. I really have discovered something at last. Through watching so much at night, when it changes so, I have finally found out. The front pattern does move, and no wonder. The woman behind shakes it. Sometimes I think there are a great many women behind, and sometimes only one. She crawls around fast, and her crawling shakes it all over. Then in the very bright spots, she keeps still. In the very shady spots, she just takes a hold of the bars and shakes them hard. And she is all the time trying to climb through. But nobody could climb through that pattern. It strangles so. I think that is why it has so many heads. They get through, and then the pattern strangles them off and turns them upside down and makes their eyes white. If those heads were covered or taken off, it would not be half so bad. I think that woman gets out in the daytime, and I'll tell you why, privately. I've seen her. I can see her out of every one of my windows. It is the same woman, I know, for she is always creeping, and most women do not creep by daylight. I see her on that long road under the trees, creeping along, and when the carriage comes, she hides under the blackberry vines. I don't blame her a bit. It must be very humiliating to be caught creeping by daylight. I always lock the door when I creep by daylight. I can't do it at night, for I know John would suspect something at once. And John is so queer now that I don't want to irritate him. I wish he would take out another room. Besides, I don't want anybody to get that woman out at night but myself. I often wonder if I could see her out of all the windows at once, but turn as fast as I can only see out of one at one time. And though I always see her, she may be able to creep faster than I can turn. I have watched her sometimes away off in the open country, creeping as fast as a cloud shadow in a high wind. If only that top pattern could be gotten off from the under one. I mean to try it little by little. I have found out another funny thing, but I shan't tell it this time. It does not do to trust people too much. There are only 2 more days to get this paper off, and I believe John is beginning to notice. I don't like the look in his eyes. And I heard him give Jenny a lot of professional questions about me. She had a very good report to give. She said I slept a good deal in the daytime. John knows I don't sleep very well at night, for all I'm so quiet. He asked me all sorts of questions, and pretended to be very loving and kind, as if I couldn't see through him. Still, I don't wonder he acts so, sleeping under this paper for 3 months. It only interests me, but I feel sure John and Jenny are secretly affected by it. Hurrah! This is the last day, but it is enough. John is to stay in town overnight and won't be out until this evening. Jenny wanted to sleep with me. The sly thing. But I told her I should undoubtedly rest better for a night all alone. That was clever, for really, I wasn't alone a bit. As soon as it was moonlight and that poor thing began to crawl and shake the pattern, I got up and ran to help her. I pulled and she shook. I shook and she pulled. And before morning, we had peeled off yards of that paper. A strip about as high as my head and half around the room. And then when the sun came, and that awful pattern began to laugh at me, I declared I would finish it today. We go away tomorrow, and they were moving all my furniture down again to leave things as they were before. Jenny looked at the wall in amazement, but I told her merrily that I did it out of pure spite at the vicious thing. She laughed and said she wouldn't mind doing it herself, and I must not get tired. How she betrayed herself that time. But I am here. No person touches this paper but me, not alive. She tried to get me out of the room. It was too patent. But I said it was so quiet and empty and clean now that I believed I would lie down again and sleep all I could, and not to wake me even for dinner. I would call when I woke. So now she is gone, and the servants are gone, and the things are gone, and there's nothing left but that great bedstead nailed down, with the canvas mattress we found on it. We shall sleep downstairs tonight, and take the boat home tomorrow. I quite enjoy the room, now that it is bare again. How those children did tear about here. This bedstead is fairly gnawed. But I must get to work. I have locked the door and thrown the key down into the front path. I don't want to go out, and I don't want to have anybody come in till John comes. I want to astonish him. I've got a rope here that even Jenny did not find. If that woman does get out and tries to get away, I can tie her. But I forgot I cannot reach far without anything to stand on. This bed will not move. I tried to lift it and push it till I was lame, and then I got so angry I bit off a little piece at one corner, but it hurt my teeth. Then I peeled off all the paper I could reach standing on the floor. It sticks horribly and the patron just enjoys it. All those strangled heads and bulbous eyes and waddling fungus girls just shriek of derision. I'm getting angry enough to do something desperate. To jump out of the window would be admirable exercise, but the bars are too strong enough to even try. Besides, I wouldn't do it. Of course not. I know well enough that a step like that is improper and might be misconstrued. I don't like to look out of the windows even. There's so many of those creeping women, and they creep so fast. I wonder if they all came out of that wallpaper as I did. But I am securely fastened now by my well-hidden rope. You don't get me out in the road there. I suppose I shall have to get back behind the patron when it comes night, and that is hard. It is so pleasant to be out in this great room and creep around as I please. I don't want to go outside. I won't, even if Jenny asked me to. For outside, you have to creep on the ground, and everything is green instead of yellow. But here, I can creep smoothly on the floor, and my shoulder just fits in that long smooch around the wall, so I cannot lose my way. Oh, why, there's John at the door. It is no use, young man. You can't open it. How he does call and pound. Now he's crying for an axe. It would be a shame to break down that beautiful door. John, dear, said I in the gentlest voice, the key is down by the front steps under a plantain leaf. That silenced him for a few moments. Then he said, very quietly indeed, Open the door, my darling. I can't, said I. The key is down by the front door under a plantain leaf. And then I said it several times, very gently and slowly, and said it so often that he had to go and see. And he got it, of course, and came in. He stopped short by the door. What is the matter? He cried. For God's sake, what are you doing? I kept on creeping just the same, but I looked at him over my shoulder. I've got out at last, said I, in spite of you and Jane. And I've pulled off most of the paper, so he can't put me back. Now why should that man have fainted? But he did, and right across my path by the wall, so that I had to creep over him every time. That is the Yellow Wallpaper. My God. That was a long one. That's probably the longest short story in that entire book. My good, don't you just hate it when a man faints right over path you want to creep through? Yeah, don't you just hate it, man? It sucks. What the hell was happening? I guess it does just sound like this woman's schizo ramblings, right? A little fascinating and really interesting, yeah. When's her debut? Charlotte Perkins Gilman for Phase Invaders? Is the room behind you yellow wallpaper? Yeah, and I've teared it all down. I've teared it all down. So they can never put me behind the yellow wallpaper anymore. Okay. Let me see what notes I have on this. So, the Yellow Wallpaper was published, I think, late 19th century, so around 1890s. And is considered to be a pivotal work of feminist literature. It explores the mental and emotional challenges faced by women in the 19th century. Arsenic wallpaper. I'm just looking at the notes that I wrote in this book. Okay. And, supposedly... Oh, Skeptical Panda, Hemotax, thank you! Thank you!
You think I could commission a scab of that yellow wallpaper for my phone? Thoughtful face.
You don't even need to. You can just search up yellow wallpaper and then make that your phone wallpaper. Are these common experiences for women? This was back at the time where women were they were diagnosed with quote unquote hysteria and treated with lobotomies. So there's not really much you can do in this in this situation. Okay, thank you, Hemotax. I'm glad.
What a story.
Okay.
I'll allow you to narrate the
Kiwi
story,
break.
makes it more fun to listen.
I
Thank
hope
you.
so.
Smile.
Probably much more fun than reading it for school, right? Hysteria was also treated with... What? Although I do see that working. Because it produces a lot of, like, endorphins and stuff. But yeah, supposedly this is... kind of... Okay, the story is presented in the form of a series of journal entries. And it's said to be sort of like in the point of view of the writer herself, suffering from postpartum depression. Draft, thank you!
This has been extremely enjoyable. I hope you consider doing more stories.
I definitely will.
In the future. I love this.
It's nice and comfy, isn't it? Yeah, I definitely will. I have a lot of these books and stories that I want to share with you. Bedtime stories, yeah. So it's set in the colonial mansion during the late 19th century. So you can kind of like track her descent into madness throughout the rest of the story. Like you can kind of tell as she spends more time in confinement and away from social gatherings, the lack of agency and free, like I guess like free will, freedom, and as well as like how her husband governs over her. You can see her kind of skitzing out more and more. Let's see. Definitely some of the main themes. The mental... How do I say this? Wait, so she's a good guy? There isn't really a good guy or a bad guy here. It's just kind of showing how cynical and paternalistic the views of the medical community were towards women at the time. I mean, she is elite. Yeah, she is the wallpaper. She is the wallpaper. There's got, yeah, mental illness, loneliness, I think it's also like women's lack of autonomy, and that's why it's kind of considered a foundational piece of feminist literature. I think it sort of like shows the consequences when women are subordinated in marriage and in, I guess, like under medical care, and when they have to stifle their own desire for like mental stimulation. Because she is a writer. She did refer to her job, her work, as writer, and like as writing. And here, when she's writing, like in the house, she's forbidden from doing her work, so she has to do it in secret. Hysteria until Menhera, yeah. From an architect point of view, though, was the yellow wallpaper really ugly? I'm just imagining like some of those like Victorian wallpapers. I can see it being really fucking ugly. Yeah. John was also telling her to thank. I think there's definitely a lot of like infantilization and like paternalistic portrayal of John, because he literally treats her like he treats her like a child, calling her what was it, a silly little goose, a precious little goose. Yeah, little girl, keeping her in the nursery of all rooms, which, by the way, I kind of have a theory that it wasn't actually a nursery, but it's also like, you know, where like the insane were kept. Like some other dude kept his insane wife. Because you don't put bars on a nursery, and you don't nail the bed down to a nursery. Yeah, 1800s padded room. It's an unreliable narrator. True. But it's kind of like, you know, I think I personally believe it was the designated padded room. Nursery was the author's way of calling the MC a child, which was like, I guess, calling herself a child. Because she really did write it about herself. What other themes are there? Definitely mental illness and how it's treated. John is a doctor. Her husband is a doctor, and he thinks he can treat her illness himself. But I guess that's why, what do you call it? Is it HIPAA or something? Like how doctors are not allowed to like operate or treat their direct family or stuff. I guess that's kind of why, because then it's a conflict of interest. Like, he just prescribes various treatments that he might believe to. Yeah, conflict of interest. She had a baby and she wasn't allowed to see it. I think that's, well, besides the isolation and the wallpaper, that's definitely a big contributing factor to her mental decline. I don't know if they kept her away from the baby because of her postpartum. Also, let me blow my nose. Okay. Yeah, because even today, postpartum is still kind of hard to treat, no? It's not like there's a specific way to treat postpartum depression. It's still a big struggle. Yeah. And John believes, like, you know, he's like, okay, take these tonics, get fresh air, lots of rest. You're not allowed to exert yourself in any way, including writing in your diary. So this forced rest, it could work for some people, but for some others who need, like, maybe writing is their way out or like their outlet, especially for her, it leads to her losing her mind, you know? I think there's also the importance of self-expression. The fact that she is not allowed to exert herself in any way, engaging with others, writing in her diary, going outside. This... How do I say this? It's not only telling us... It's not only saying that, oh yeah, women need to do this in order not to go crazy. But I think it's just, in general, if you take self-expression and freedom and anything away from anybody and force them to, like, have a confined rest period, and every time you bring up, like, wanting to do something like that or stuff, you get berated, like, that's gonna drive anyone crazy. And you can see, because when she tries to bring up the conversation of, like, you know, making changes or doing something different at the start, she can have a normal conversation, but near the end, when she tries to express her needs, she gets overwhelmed with tears, and subsequently, like, John just sees her as, you know, having a Menhera moment, having a woman moment again, and doesn't take her seriously. So it's not because she isn't well that she can't express herself. It's because she was forced to rest and not exert herself that she became more and more unwell. It's like, you're driving me crazy. Maybe there's something about writers being censored. Maybe. I think definitely, definitely it is about women being censored. Especially if you think about the times in general. You could draw that out to the writers, like to artists and writers being censored as well. Because again, at the time, art was not seen as, you know, I think it was seen as something that either had to be useful, such as like a giant entryway piece, or yeah, something like that. Feels like a stretched out one. It could be. I mean, like, if you wrote about it in an essay, you probably get extra points. Thank you. Yippee! Oh, let me see. Anonymous, thank you. He may text. Ooh. Yeah, taking the baby away from her was crazy. Imagine you just have a baby, you're already kind of going through postpartum, and then you're not allowed to see it for 3 months. Especially when it's a newborn as well. What if it was stillborn, though? I mean... She did say that the other woman was taking care of it, right? The other, what's her name? Jenny? Was it Jenny or was it Jay? I forgot. Someone that was taking care of it. So, the assumption is that it is alive. You're crazy. We're keeping the baby away so you don't kill it, you silly goose. Yeah. Let's see. Let's talk a bit more about the yellow paper and what it symbolizes. So, let's see. When the when the woman and the narrator move to his house, she just immediately says it's hideous, and that's as in-depth as she goes about with it. She doesn't think about any like women creeping behind, she just thinks it's ugly, right? And because they're using an old nursery as their bedroom, I think she was already suffering from her transition to motherhood. So the fact that they're sleeping in a nursery, which is a room meant for caring for babies, coupled with the wallpaper, she finds it kind of alarming and disturbing. she might be projecting her own distaste for motherhood, like for the transition into motherhood, onto her hatred of the wallpaper. And she's essentially trapped in the room with the wallpaper since, you know, her husband has ordered her to be on bed rest. She's stuck in the room. And he won't take down the disturbing wallpaper. This is definitely infantilizing, yeah. It's like very pervasive and confining to her as a woman or as a new mother. She has no power to change her situation, which is symbolized by the wallpaper. And her husband, who does have power, doesn't listen to her or just dismisses it and tells her, you know, just skill issue, get good. And as she gets more and more bed rest, which is just another way of, you know, exacerbating her mental illness, and it's basically isolating her. She starts believing that there's a woman inside the wallpaper, that it's moving, and she becomes obsessed with this woman. And on her last day, she tries to set the woman free by tearing down the wallpaper. And while she's tearing it down, there were some interesting ways that she portrayed it. She spoke of herself as the woman in the wallpaper. It's implied that she becomes the woman trapped inside of it, because her obsession with this woman has kind of always been a projection of her own desires, to creep, her own desires to have, or she sees herself in that woman because she also is trapped around and can only creep around at night, or can only do things in secrecy behind John's back. She becomes the wallpaper, so she wants to rip herself apart. That too, but I think definitely the most prominent thing she wanted to do while ripping down the wallpaper is to set the woman, and by extension herself, free. Her attempt to free the woman is an attempt to free herself, to free herself from the limitations being placed on her, and as an extension, limitations of the female gender roles. You know? But what of the rope? Oh, so she wasn't gonna kill herself. She was going to use the rope to tie down the woman, I guess. If she escaped, which you could put more thought into the rope, I guess, as a symbolism for like even when she breaks free from the wallpaper, she'll still be captured, she'll still be tied down and held down, blah blah blah. I wonder if the husband was so protective of her before she gave birth. She's being treated differently, so describing the wallpaper as the hideous thing that's trapping her. Maybe. I definitely feel like she only started exhibiting signs of this illness after having the child, as is the case with a lot of postpartum. I'm really curious about the last line, coming and going over the husband's fainted body. Okay, so I guess picture this in your mind. This woman is just like creeping around the wall. She's just like going around the room in circles, and where the husband is fainted, she's just stepping over him every time she completes a circle. So, I guess... him fainting and her continuing to creep over him. What do you guys think of that? Water break. The wallpaper is basically shallow and tasteless art, and she's being restricted from her art writing. That is true. That is a good way to see it. To me, it seemed like a euphemism for murder from an unreliable narrator. It could be. I mean, it was described as... Oh, Java update available. No thanks. It was described as him fainting because he went in, he saw the wallpaper on the floor and her creeping around the room, and he faints. I wonder if it's murder. Thought she knocked him out, killed. Dude realized he failed when he sees his wife all yellow wallpaper. Yeah. Sneaking, eeking, eeking, eeking. It's a symbol of her breaking free from him. I don't think she's completely free though, because it's only a temporary freedom. While he's out cold, it's the same as when he's sleeping. Only then she has the freedom to engross herself in the wallpaper, because she's like, they're sleeping together, but while he's sleeping, she's wide awake, just following the wallpaper and everything. And yeah, might have had arsenic in the wallpaper too. Absolutely. Let's see. What else can we say about this? Yummy lead wallpaper. It wouldn't really make sense he fainted from just wallpaper being torn out. I mean, he did panic because the room was locked and he had to go through all that. And I guess like walking in and seeing that your wife has completely lost her mind is enough for you to faint. Wallpaper being her skin is an interesting interpretation. I wonder if she has enough, like, how would she rip her skin off? I don't think it's that grotesque, but it could be. I mean, after all, they did say she was biting the bedpost until a bit of it came off. She's just like me. She's just like me. My God. Don't underestimate Crazy's strength. Her fingernails? Oh, what if she had like jaundice? Oh, yikes. He got shook up of the fines he has to pay because it was the last day of lease. Oh yeah, he was like, oh my God, the inspection's gonna be a nightmare, and then he faints. Yeah, that was the Yellow Wallpaper. Very, very interesting story, don't you think? And let's read one more. The Adventure of the Speckled Band. Very interesting. Yeah. Would you consider the limitations on the women in the story to inspire thoughts on the world, on varying states of women's rights around the world in the past 100 years or so? It definitely is a symbolism of feminism, and a lot of modern feminist writers have quoted her works in as like the pioneer or one of the pioneers of I guess like feminism. I blow my nose again. Oh my God, my throat is kind of dying. When she finished the story, she sent it to her doctor basically as an "I told you so." Honestly, girl boss. You slay queen. Alright, one more story and then my throat is gonna give out. So, let's go to... now? What? The Adventure of the Speckled Band. So this one is part of the Sherlock Holmes series. I'll take a little break for you. I'm okay. This one is part of the Sherlock Holmes series, and it's pretty... Actually, Let me see how long this is. Wait, this is kind of long. Okay, maybe this one's not the best one for today. But I definitely want to read some Sherlock Holmes for you guys. I really liked reading Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes series when I was younger, and the BBC TV show as well. Also, Legato, thank you for 2 with Envy. I'm enjoying the stream way more than my English classes in my high school days. Were you an English teacher in your past life, Hime? I'm 18. How can I be an English teacher? Okay, Do you guys want one about You guys want one called 26 Men and a Girl? It sounds like a gangbang, but I promise it's not. I promise it's not. What a title. I promise it's not a gangbang. It's kind of insult coded, I'm not gonna lie, but for good reason. You'll see. Clickbait title for okay, let me type this then. Now reading 26 Men and a Girl. Okay. Please let me pin this. 26 cowboys win the showers at Ram Ranch. Party Cat! Thank you for your tags. Yippee! Oh wait, yippies are illegal. No yippies allowed. 26 Sims. It really is just 26 Sims. Okay. Let's see. Turn to page 97. Okay. 26 Men and a Girl by Maxim Gorky. We were 26 men. 26 living machines locked in a damp cellar where from morning to night we kneaded dough, making crinkles and crackers. The cellar's windows opened to a brick-lined hole, green with moisture, the frames bolted from outside with thick iron grating, and the sunlight could not pierce the glass, covered in flour dust. Our boss hammered the windows of iron, so we could not give a piece of his bread to beggars, or to our comrades who had no work and were starving. Our boss called us swindlers and gave us for lunch, instead of meat, tainted tripe. Life was stuffy and tight in a stone box under a low, heavy ceiling, coated in soot and cobweb. It was hard and sickening in thick walls, spotted in dirt and mold. We rose at 5 a.m., unrested and dull, indifferent. By 6, we were making kringles from dough our comrades made while we slept. And all day at a table from morning to 10 at night, shaping elastic dough and rocking to and fro as to so not go numb, while others kneaded flour with water. All day sadly purred boiling water in the pot where kringles cooked. On the stove, the baker's shovel hit fast and angrily, flinging slippery boiled dough on hot brick. Morning to night, wood burned in the oven and flared, reflecting red flame on the workshop wall, as if silently laughing at us. The huge oven looked like the deformed head of a grotesque monster, as if thrust out of the floor, opening its wide mouth full of blazing flame, breathing hot fire at us, looking into our endless labors. With 2 hollows on its forehead that were its air holes. Those 2 air holes were his eyes, the pitiless and impassionate gaze of a monster. They always looked with the same dark glance, as if tired of gazing at slaves, expecting nothing human of them, detesting them with the cold scorn of wisdom. From day to day in flour dust, in dirt our feet dragged off in the yard, and in thick sultry stench we wrought dough and made kringles, basting them with our sweat. And with keen hatred we hated our labors. We never ate our handiwork, preferring black bread to kringles. 9 facing 9, we sat at a long table of endless hours, mechanically moving hands and fingers, so used to our work that we did not follow our motions. By now, we had so long studied each other that we each knew the wrinkles on his comrade's face. We had nothing to say. We were used to that. We were at all times silent, unless swearing, for one can always find a reason to rail at a man, especially a comrade. But we rarely swore. How can a man be guilty if he is half dead, if he is like a stone idol, if all feelings in him are stifled under the weight of toil? Silence is terrible and torturous to only those who have no more to say. But to those who have not started to speak, To them, silence is simple and light. Sometimes we sang, and our songs began like this. Amidst the work, someone would breathe a heavy sigh as a tired horse, and softly sing out one of those drawn-out songs of a mournful tender tune that always lessens the burden on the singer's soul. One would sing, and at first we silently listened to his lone song, and it would die and fade under the closed ceiling of the cellar, like a small campfire on the steppe of a damp autumn night, when the gray sky hangs over the earth like a lead roof. Then to the singer joined another, and now two voices quietly and mournfully swam in the stifling heat of our tight pit. Then abruptly, several voices joined. It would rise as a wave, grow stronger, louder, as if to split the dark, heavy walls of our stone prison. Then sang all 26. Loud, long-practiced voices filled the workshop. The song was cramped in it. It hit on the stone walls, moaning, crying, chafing hearts, with quiet tickling pain, pricking old wounds and waking sentiment. A singer would heavily and deeply sigh. Another abruptly would cut the song and listen long as sung his comrades, until again joining his voice in the common chorus. Another thoughtfully would cry, sing, close his eyes, and maybe to him, a thick white wave of sound as a road to somewhere to the distance, lit in bright sunshine. A wide road, and he saw himself walking on it. The oven flame yet flickered. Still, the baker's shovel hit on brick, water purred in the pot, and the fire's reflection on the wall still trembled, silently laughing. And we sang out words others wrote to our sorrow, the heavy yearnings of living men cut off the sun, the grief of slaves. So we lived, 26 men, in a cellar of a large stone building, a place so hard to live, as if all 3 stories had been built on our shoulders. Aside from songs, we had something good, beloved of us, which maybe replaced the sun. On the 2nd story was an embroidery shop, and there, amidst many girls, lived a 16-year-old seamstress Tanya. Every morning to the door window of our workshop, she pressed her small, rosy face with sky-blue, happy eyes. Her clear, friendly voice cried to us, "Little prisoners, give me some crinkles!" At that clear sound, we would all spin our heads and gladly, good-naturedly look at her clean, girlish face, kindly smiling to us. It warmed us to see her nose flattened to the glass, her small white teeth shining on her rosy lips opened in a smile. Shoving each other, we rushed to the door, and there she was, cheerful, sweet, would walk in, holding out her apron, standing before us, her head just cocked, all smiles. A long, thick braid of chestnut fell across her shoulder, lying on her chest. We dirty, dark, and ugly men looked up to her. The threshold was 4 steps above the floor, and gazed at her, raising our heads and wishing her good morning, special words. They were only for her. In conversation with her, we had voices softer, jokes lighter. For her, everything special. From the oven, the baker pulled a shovel of the crispiest and ruddiest crinkles and tossed them in Tanya's apron. We warned her, "Watch the boss doesn't catch you." She would roguely laugh and merrily shout to us, "Goodbye, little prisoners!" and quickly vanish like a little mouse. And that was all. Long after, we spoke kindly of her, same as yesterday and before, as she and us and everything about us was the same as yesterday and before. It's very hard and torturous when a man lives and nothing about him changes, and if that doesn't completely kill his soul, the longer he lives, the more torment is the immobility of his surroundings. We always spoke so crudely of women that at times we ourselves were disgusted at our shameless words, and this is clear, for the women we knew maybe didn't merit different speech. But of Tanya, we never spoke ill. No one laid a finger on her, she heard no loose jokes off of us. Perhaps it was because she never stayed long, a flash in our eyes like a star falling from the heavens. And then she vanished. And perhaps as she was small and very pretty, and all beauty provokes reverence, even in crude men. And more, while our penal servitude made us as stupid oxen, we still remained men and could not live without an object of worship. Better than her there was not among us. Except her, no one acknowledged us living in the cellar. No one, though dozens lived in the building. Finally, probably most important, we saw her as somehow ours, as one who lived only thanks to our Kringles. We took it duty to give her hot Kringles, and it became as a daily sacrifice to an idol, a sacred rite that each day bound us closer to her. Aside from Kringles, we gave Tanya much advice. To dress warmer, to not run fast on the stairs, and not to carry heavy bundles of wood. With a smile, she listened, answered in a laugh, and never obeyed us, but we were not offended. We only wanted to show that we were concerned for her. Often, she came to us with various requests, asking, for example, to open the heavy door to the cellar, or to chop wood. With gladness and even pride, we did all this and all else she wished. But when one of us asked her to repair his only shirt, she disdainfully snorted, replying, "Indeed, I should, as if." We laughed heartily at the silly fool and made no more request of her. We loved her, and that was all. A man always wishes to lay his love on someone, although sometimes he chokes, sometimes sillies, sometimes he poisons the life of one close when in loving, and does not respect her. We had to love Tanya, for there was no one else for us to love. At times, one would start to reason as such. Why do we pamper the kid? What about her is so wonderful? We make such a fuss of her. Man who had chosen so to speak was quickly silenced. We had to love someone. We found her and loved her. That which we 26 loved had to be unshakable for each of us as our holy relic, and all who opposed us was our enemy. Perhaps what we loved was insufficient, but it was all us 26 had. And as such, we always want what we love to be holy to our fellows. Our love is no easier than hate. Maybe that's why some arrogant men believe hate more flattering than love. But why do they not reject us, if that is so? Aside from making Kringles, our boss had a bun bakery. It was in the same building, divided from our hole by a wall. Though the bun bakers they were for held themselves apart from us, seeing their work cleaner than ours, and thus seeing themselves better than us. They never came to see us, scornfully laughing at us when meeting outside. We didn't visit them. The boss forbade it, fearing we would take to stealing buns. Envying them, we didn't fancy the bun bakers. Work was easier, they made more, were better fed, they had a spacious, bright workshop. They were so clean, so healthy, as opposed to us. And we, so yellow and gray. 3 had syphilis, a few had scabs, 1 crippled by rheumatism. On holidays and off days, they dressed in jackets and squeaky clean boots. 2 had accordions, and all went to carouse in the city park. We in dirty tatters, on our feet cast-offs or base shoes. The police wouldn't let us in the park. How could we like those bun bakers? Once we learned that the bun baker took the drink, the boss dismissed him and had already hired a new one. And this new one, a soldier, went about in a satin waistcoat and wore a watch with a gold chain. We were curious to see such a dandy, and in hopes of catching sight of him, at times one after another of us would run to the yard. But he himself showed up in our workshop. With a kick to the door, he opened it, leaving it ajar, stood on the threshold smiling, saying to us, "God save us! How you doing, boys?" Frosted air streaming through the store, and smoky clouds swirled about his feet. And there he stood on the threshold, looking at us from above, and under his blonde, twisted mustache shone bright, strong yellow teeth. His waistcoat indeed was special. Dark blue, sewn in flowers, all shining, the buttons of a sort of red stone. And there was the watch chain. Handsome he was, that soldier, so tall, healthy, with ruddy cheeks and large, bright eyes, with a friendly, clear look. On his head, he wore a white, firmly starched cap, and from under, a spotless, clean apron poked sharp, fashionable clean books. Our baker politely asked him to close the door. He did this in no hurry and began to ask us of the boss. We vied with each other to tell him that the boss was a rascal, a wretch, and a torturer. All that could be and was needed to say of him that cannot be here written. The soldier listened, twisting his mustache, surveying us in his soft, bright gaze. "And you have many girls around here," he suddenly said. A few politely laughed, others made wry faces. Someone told the soldier a few skirts were floating around. "Use them?" he said, winking. Again, we laughed, and abashed laughter. Many wished to show the soldier some kind of daring, manly feat like his. But none could not. Not one. One confessed as much, quietly saying, "But how for us?" "Yes, for you that's hard," the soldier confidently replied, fixedly gazing on us. "With you there's something quite not right. You don't have the bearing. The look, I mean. A woman, she likes a look in a man. For her, the body real solid, that all is to form. And she likes some muscle. An arm like this." From his pocket, the soldier pulled an unsleeved right arm, bare to the elbow, showing it to us. The arm was white, strong, covered in shining gold hair. "In your legs, chest, and all you need strength. As well, a man should be dressed proper and wear fine clothes. You see, women simply love me. I don't call, don't beckon, and in bunches of 5 they fall all over me." He sat on a flour sack and long talked of how women loved him, of how gallant he was with them. After he left and the door squeaked behind him, we were long silent, thinking of him and his tales. Then abruptly all spoke at once, and it was instantly clear that we all liked him. So simple and decent. Came in, sat, talked. No one came to us, no one talked to us, so friendly. And we spoke of him and his future successes, the seamstresses, who, on meeting us outside, either resentfully pursed their lips or walked straight at us as if we were not there. And outside, we only gazed longingly at them, or when they walked by our windows, wearing fine caps and fur coats in the winter, and hats sporting flowers in the summer with their colorful umbrellas. Between ourselves, how we spoke of those girls that, had they heard, they would have boiled with shame and insult. Hope he doesn't corrupt little Tanya," the baker abruptly said in a concerned tone. We were struck silent at those words. Somehow we forgot about Tanya. The soldier's strong, handsome figure cut her off from us. Then began a loud argument. Some said Tanya would not so lower herself. Others held that she could not withstand him. A third group resolved in the case that he went for her, we should break his ribs. Finally, all settled to watch after the soldier and Tanya, and to warn the girl that she be careful of him. This ended the argument. About a month passed. The soldier baked buns, went out with the seamstresses, and often dropped in our workshop, though of his conquest he said nothing. He merely twirled his mustache and licked his lips with relish. Every morning Tanya came for Kringles, and she was happy, sweet, and friendly as always. We touched on the soldier with her. She called him a goggle-eyed calf and other amusing nicknames, as calmed us. We were proud of our girl, seeing how the other seamstresses went for the soldier. Tanya's relations to him raised her above the rest, and we, as if guided by her, began to behave coldly towards the soldier. We grew to love her even more, and with still more joy and kindness met her in the mornings. One morning, the soldier dropped by a bit drunk, sat, and began to laugh. and when we asked at what he was laughing, he explained. Two were fighting over me, Lika and Grushka. How they tore each other. One after the other's hair, on the porch floor, one on top of the other. Scratching each other's faces, tearing. Hilarious. Why can't these women fight honest? Why do they scratch, huh? He sat on the bench, so healthy, so clean, so happy, sat and laughed non-stop. We were silent. Somehow, we did not then like him. Now, how is it I have such luck with the girls? A scream! And just wink, and she's naked! The devil with it! His white hands, covered in shining hair, rose and fell to his knees, loudly smacking them. He looked at us with a cheery, amazed glance, as if he honestly couldn't comprehend his luck with women. His fat, ruddy face shone in contentment and joy. He kept licking his lips. Our baker abruptly and angrily struck his... Thank you. And angrily struck his shovel on the stove and snapped sarcastically. Doesn't take much strength to fell a fir, but let's see you down a pine. What's that? You talking to me? Asked the soldier. Yes, you. Of what? Nothing. Begone. No, you wait. What you talking about? What pine? Our baker did not reply. He quickly worked his shovel in the oven, throwing in boiled Kringles, hooking the ready ones, loudly tossing them to the boys on the floor, threading them on base. Somehow, he forgot the conversation with the soldier. But the soldier fell into a sudden rage. He stood and walked to the stove, risking impalement on the shovel handle, convulsively whipping through the air. Was that the queen? Oh, that was my grandma. No, you tell me. What you talking about? You insulted me. No woman can resist. Not one, no. And you spoke such insulting words. He honestly seemed insulted. It appeared his self-respect was founded on his ability to seduce women, and maybe outside that skill, there was nothing alive in him, and it alone let him feel a living man. There are people whose most valued possession in life is some disease of the soul or flesh. They carry it at times, and live for it, suffering from it. They feed on it. They complain of it to others, and so gain attention of their fellow humans. For it, they gain sympathy, and without it, they have nothing. Excise that disease, cure them, and they will be miserable, for they will have lost their soul sustenance. They will be empty then. At times, a man's life is so poor that he must cultivate a vice and live by it, and one may say, often some are addicted to vice out of boredom. The injured soldier thrust himself at the baker and roared, "No, you tell me! Who?" Abruptly turning, the baker shot back, "Tell you? Well? You know Tanya? Well? Her! Try your luck!" "Me? You! Her? To me? Nothing! We'll see. You'll see! You shill. A month! Good God, you're a braggart, soldier! 2 weeks! I'll show you what girl, Tanya? Nothing! Now be gone, you're in the way. 2 weeks, and that's it. Oh, it's you. Be gone, I'm telling you! Our baker fell into sudden rage, brandishing his shovel. The soldier jumped back in surprise, silently looking at us, quietly, ominous, remarking, "We'll see," and left us. During the argument, we were silent, caught up in it. Now the soldier had left, an uproar broke out. Someone shouted at the baker, "That's bad business you started, Pavel. Get to work!" The baker angrily shot back. He felt the soldier had been stung to the quick, and danger threatened Tanya. He felt this, but at the same time embraced a burning, delightful curiosity. What would happen? Would Tanya stand against the soldier? Almost everyone assuredly cried, "Tanya? She'll stand. Muscles won't take her." "Ah, my kiwi!" dropped my kiwi on the table. Okay. We intensely wanted to test our idol's strength, straining to prove to each other that our idol was strong and would emerge victorious. Now we wondered if we had sufficiently provoked the soldier, that he would forget the argument and his conscience and needed more pricking. Our lives took on a nervous strain, as we had never before lived. For whole days, we argued. We grew strangely smarter, came to more and better speak. It seemed as if we were playing a game with the devil, and the stake on our side, Tanya. When we learned from the bun bakers the soldier had started to make a go for Tanya, it was such a terrifyingly exciting life, and didn't even notice when the boss took advantage of our agitation to increase our work by 14 pods of dough a day. Tanya's name never left our lips. Each morning we waited for her with particular impatience. Sometimes it seemed different to us that she would come and not be the old Tanya, but somehow different. To her, we saw nothing of the argument. We asked her nothing, conducting ourselves with our accustomed love. But into that conduct had stolen something new and alien to our old feelings for Tanya, and that new thing was sharp curiosity, like a steel knife. "Boys, time's up today," said the baker one morning as he started work. We knew full well without his reminder, but still started. "Watch for her, she'll be in soon," considered the baker. Someone shouted in a tone of regret. "It's not a thing one's eyes can catch." Again flared a loud, lively argument. At last today we would know how clean and moral was the vessel in which we had placed our bet. That morning, we first felt that we were playing a dangerous bet, and the test of our God might destroy her for us. All this time, we heard how the soldier was persistently dogging Tanya, but no one had asked her how she regarded him. And on time, she continued to show up every morning for Kringles, just as always. And that day, we soon heard her voice. "Little prisoners, I've come." We quickly admitted her, and at her entrance, met her with unexpected silence. All eyes on her. We didn't know what to say to her, what to ask her. We stood before her, a suspicious, silent crowd. She was apparently surprised at the reception. She abruptly paled, grew unsettled, and in a strained voice asked, Why are you so different today?" "And you?" The baker suddenly shot back, his eyes fixed on her. "Well, give me the Kringles, quick!" Never before had she hurried us. "No rush," the baker replied, not moving, not pulling her eyes from her face. Abruptly, she turned and vanished out the door. The baker took his shovel and, turning to the oven, calmly intoned, "That means he's done it! That soldier, the rascal!" Like a flock of sheep bumping each other, we walked to the table, listlessly settling to work. Shortly, someone said, "But, well, maybe..." "No more of that!" the baker shouted. We all knew him a smart man, smarter than the rest of us. In his shout, we understood his certainty of the soldier's victory. We felt depressed, unsettled. At lunch at 12, in walked the soldier. He was, as always, clean and dandified, and as always looked us straight in the eye. We felt awkward looking at him. "Well, well, honored gentleman, you want me to show you a soldier's feat?" he said in proud irony. "Now you head out to the threshold and look through the cracks. Got it?" We walked to the door and, crowding each other, pressed to the cracks in the wooden planks that looked to the yard. We didn't have to wait long. Soon, Tanya came walking fast, her face preoccupied, jumping puddles of mud and melted snow. She vanished behind the cellar door. Then, whistling, not hurrying, to the same walked the soldier. His hands were in his pockets. He twirled his mustache. Rain was falling, and we saw drops striking pools, puddles rippling as they hit. The day was gray, wet, a very rotten day. Snow still lied on the roofs, on the ground patches of mud. The snow on the roofs was covered in a dark brown, dirty film. Rain slowly fell. We waited, cold and uncomfortable. The soldier was the first to leave the cellar. Slowly, he walked across the yard, lips smiling. Twirling his mustache, hands in pockets, as always. Then, out came Tanya. Her eyes gleamed joy and happiness, her lips smiling. She walked as if in a dream, unsteady, shaking. We could not be silent. All at once, out burst out the door, leaped to the yard, whistling, yelling at her, spiteful, loud, vicious. Seeing us, she started, and stood as rooted in the mud below her. We surrounded her and gloated continually, swore at her, insults, shameless things. This we did not allow, not hurrying, for she had no exit. She was surrounded, and we could jeer her as she wished. Unsure of why, no one hit her. She stood amidst us and turned her head now here, now there, listening to our insults. And we, ever louder, ever stronger, threw at her filth and poison. The color drained off her face. Her clear blue eyes, a moment ago so happy, opened wide. Her breath heaved, her lips trembled. And we surrounded her, taking vengeance, for she had robbed us. She belonged to us. We had given her our best, be it beggar's crumbs, but it was ours. We were 26 and she was 1, and we could give no pain to equal her guilt. How we reviled her. Silent, she looked at us with wild eyes, her body trembling. We laughed, we howled, snarled. From somewhere, others joined us. Someone pulled her jacket sleeve. Thanks, thank you.
Thank you for the forgotten stories.
Thank you. I will read memberships and super chats later. Thank you, Quebec. Thank you. Abruptly, her eyes sparkled. Slowly, she raised her hands to fix her hair, and loudly but calmly said in our faces, "Oh, you miserable prisoners!" And she walked straight at us as if we were not there. And as such, no one stood in her way. And once out of our circle, not even turning around, she proudly and contemptuously spat. "Oh, you scum! You swine! You reptiles!" And left, straight, beautiful, proud. We stood in the yard, in the mud, as rain fell from a gray sky with no sun. Then we too silently shuffled to our damp stone hole. As before, the sun never shone through our window, and Tanya came no more. And that was 26 Men and a Girl. Very NTR coded. Indeed, indeed. Now some gas NTR. And she's 16! Plus, the fact that she's 16. I wonder how old the soldier was. Well, I guess they didn't really care back in the day. You would have like 14-year-old queen being... a 14-year-old princess being married out and stuff. A very Russian story. Life sucks, then you die. So true. So true. Okay. What do you think? What do you think? You guys wanna talk about it? What did we glean from this story? Such as life, you just get NTR'd. They did it to themselves. There's a lot of religious imagery here, and idealistic. What the fuck is a queen? I don't know. Wait. Let me see. Oh, it's kind of like a... Imagine like a donut, but like flat, and it has like jam in it. Yeah, something like a donut or a pretzel. Breakfast pastry. Simping gone horrendous. Yeah, moral of the story, don't be bored in Russia. Yeah, would you kill someone over a Kringle? I've never had a Kringle. Never had a Kringle. But yeah. I think the main themes here are definitely obsession and idolization. Delusions or like lost illusions. Misogyny, definitely women hating. And there's a bit of like economic determinism. He already portrays the lives of these men as miserable and harsh and very, very Russian. A very Russian grind set. The only thing, yeah, they don't really have a life of their own. They're just machines working trapped in the basement. They describe it as a stone box as well. It kind of creates the impression that they're confined with no way out. There was also the description of the stove as a monster. They're like, it's personified as a monster with pitless eyes and huge jaws. It's like the jaws of the oven are eating up their lives, and it's like the oven is there mocking them. The men are they're usually like referred to as prisoners. Tanya refers to them as prisoners. Yeah, it's pretty spot on. Let's see. Obsession and idolization as well. So they're obsessed with Tanya. That's clear as day. She is their idol, their Oshi. The highlight of their day is when she comes by and asks for pretzels, and they don't even eat their own food. Like they're not even allowed to take the pretzels for themselves, and yet they give them to Tanya every single morning. That's like simp behavior. Real simp hours. I guess when you're living a miserable life, especially one of penal labor, having something to look forward to, or something to, like one light in your life, can help a lot with coping. It's why lots of people turn to religion. Lots of people will turn to religion or to cults, even to VTubers. Penal, PENAL. Is it penal or penal? I don't know. It's like how you guys probably have to go to work and stuff, and it's like a long, dreadful day, and you can't wait to get back home and watch Hime channel. Yeah, the male need for an object of adoration. These men cannot live without worshipping something, and they worship Tanya. She's described as sweet and happy and clean and innocent, which is juxtaposed with the description of the men who are ugly, dirty, ignorant, disease-ridden prisoners. They're comparing themselves with Tanya, and there's also how they are of lower status than she is, because she would stand on the top of the stairs and look down at them, and they would look up at her. The symbolism is real. Yeah, they were unicorns. They were unicorns for Tanya. And Tanya is kind of like, she only appears for a couple minutes a day, and that is enough to, like, have them talk happily about her amongst themselves for the rest of the day. And they compare how they talk with different women. They talk about different women. So apparently they use like coarse and indecent expressions and like spit filth and stuff, but they never talk about Tanya like that, and they never touch her. They also say, I think he directly says they sacrifice their pretzels to her. Like he directly uses the word sacrifice, which is again often usually given to deities, like those are worship. And the men would do anything for Tanya. They would do anything for her. But when asked to return the favor, when one of them asked her to mend his only shirt, she was like, "Ha! As if." So she definitely sees herself as above her, like above all of them. Can't believe it was written about modern day VTubing. Yeah. The thing is, like, they placed Tanya on this pedestal from which she is bound to fall because they considered her perfect. And they set a standard for her that was pretty much unreachable. So she was kind of doomed to fail. Especially when they provoked the guy into, you know, giving her a quote-unquote test. She's only human, but the men have raised her up so high. They put this illusion, they put this lost illusion on her, and when she doesn't live up to her to their expectations, they feel hurt by the consequences. And even though she had technically done nothing wrong, like, they feel that no pain that we could inflict on her would be equal to her guilt. Yeah, this is a parasocial relationship, but in real life. Because the soldier's appearance is presented as a test for Tanya. They encourage the soldier. The baker encouraged the soldier to go try for her, even though they don't want her to fail. They're fond of her. It's because they're curious to see if Tanya will, you know, like, resist the soldier's advances. But at the same time, it's kind of like morbid curiosity to see if they're justified in their worship. Yeah, it was a test. As far as she's concerned, they're just her Kringle dealer. Yeah, they're just the pretzel plug. And let's see. Sacrificing my tip. Which tip?
Sacrificing my tip for him.
Wait, what kind of tip?
For the stream.
That's why I love VTubers in general. Most of them present themselves as perfect. Parasocial for a human being versus parasocial for a deity. But she doesn't present herself as perfect either. It's the 26 men that placed their expectations on her, and when she didn't live up to them, they started berating her, and you know, at the end of the story, they call her out for it. But yet at the end of the story, after being initially shaken up by their harsh words and their heckling, she leaves. She realizes that, you know, she's very pleased with what she did with herself, and she's not going to let these men, you know, tell her. She leaves the men from the huddle upright, beautiful, and proud, as she walked away directly at them, as if they didn't exist, and so they made way for her. It is like an analogy for VTubers and their fans. Could be, for some of them. That's why I said, like, this story is kind of it's kind of insult coded, but at the same time, like, you know, I don't blame them for feeling that way. The bakers and the soldier are totally Cain and Abel. The sacrifices aren't rewarded, so they're bitter. Yeah. Humanity, yeah, it's been like 200 years and it hasn't changed. Let's see. Okay, I think that's about everything that I had for this one. It really is nothing new under the sun. It really is. It really do be like that. So those were 3 19th century short stories that I really enjoyed. And I hope you enjoyed them too. Thank you for reading them through with me. Or I guess I read them for you. Let me just catch up with some of the membies and stuff. Quebec again, thank you for heme tags. I hope they're not exactly forgotten. They're still being studied in school, but I hope to bring this to people who never did get to study them in school, and hopefully you can feel more enjoyment. You can enjoy them more this way rather than having to study them. Yeah, sacrificing my tip for you. That's crazy. Luis Medina, thank you. This is quite a treat. Thanks for the stream. Thank you. My mom has been telling me to do reading streams more because she's like, you have such a nice reading voice. You should do more. Yeah, absolutely gonna do more of these. Jimmy Max, thank you for the 19-month memby. Thank you, thank you. Came a pat. Heck, dumb, let's go.
Hi, my cousin wife died of tuberculosis. Let's go.
This is so 19th century coded. Dying of tuberculosis. And Summerfuck, thank you for your tags. Yay, yippee! Invader218, welcome to Freevita. And Evan C, thank you for 3 months memby. Okay, I think that's everything that I missed. So oh no, yippee allowed. Yippee. No yippee allowed. Okay, now I'm going to eat my lunch. Quebec, thank you, Yumatax. Thank you again.
Your mom is right. You have a good reading voice.
I'll tell her that. Because I remember during Halloween I was doing the creepypasta read along. I was reading the creepypastas by the campfire, and then she was listening in the back. She was like, you know, you should do more of these. You have a good reading voice. And when I was young, I participated in these things like speech festivals, where we would have to like memorize a prose or a poem or an article and read it out. And I actually won first place when I was like 7, I think. So I guess this is really going back to my roots. Maybe I can become an English teacher. And talk about speech festivals. Yeah, they were pretty cool. Hate speech? No, not hate speech. Actual speech festivals. You mean you should read The Chaos. Hardest English. Why is it hardest? Like hardest to read, hardest to analyze, or like it goes hard. Would you be interested in reading of any of Lovecraft's mythos? I do want to read some Lovecraftian stories to you guys as well, because I haven't read a lot of them myself, but the ones I have were really interesting. So, absolutely. Let's make this a regular thing. And no big spoilers, but you know, my next outfit, it is quite elegant, so I think it would match the theme very, very well. No spoilers, no spoilers. Any visual novels planned for the near future? Ah yes, more reading games. I have a... Let me open my board. I have a Notion board with games that I wanted to play. Let's see, where is it? So I wanted to try AI the Somnium Files. Amy's been shilling it to me. She says it's great. So definitely might see that sometime next month. Yeah, it's pretty good from what I've seen. Some other games that are like plot heavy or like text heavy. I want to play the 𝐒𝐴 remake, Pocket Mirror, Signalis, Valhalla, and of course Library of Ruina. If you manage to get the true ending for Lobotomy Corp, there's plenty of stories about the abnormalities for a very short stream. Ooh, you mean like you want me to like go through the abnormalities? Go through the abnors? Yeah, I love all of those games. Are really good plot heavy choices that I've always wanted to play. And I think now with my schedule a little more free, or like since I've completed a bunch of games, I feel confident about starting new ones. Well, yeah, the bartender one. That one's pretty cool. 13 Sentinels is non-stop mine. I've heard 13 Sentinels is also pretty good too. Disco Elysium, 10 was obsessed with it. 𝐶𝐸Hime, yeah, 𝐶𝐸Hime remake. I was trying to sing Millie's song again. Da 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 da. Don't miss the moment of this experiment. Oh, the book is strange. Da da Clockwork Orange. I recommend Danganronpa. I've already played through Danganronpa, but maybe we could relive it. Reading those stories makes the later Project Moon games a little bit nicer. Would you read Mahoyo? As in Mahoyo or Mihoyo? Mihoyo games are pretty text heavy too. I did play through the recent Star Rail quest, and it was really good. It was really good. Type Moon Mahoyo. Ooh, maybe if I do Fate. I've been thinking of getting into Fate anyways. Oh, Mahotsukai no Yoru. Love is key to heartbreak. Yeah, thank you for all your suggestions. Definitely gonna check them out. Fate game night. Let me see who is live right now. Who is live? I do not see anybody from Phase Connect that's live right now. Let me see if anybody's about to start. Oh, Clara is about to start. Okay. I'll send you guys to Clara first. And you guys can wait 10 minutes for her to start stream. Geronimo, thank you for your attacks. Okay. She's playing Elden Ring. Yes, thank you for coming today, and I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about some of the music processes, like the behind the scenes that happens with my music. I think a lot of you might be interested in this, so yeah, let's go. Otsu, thank you for coming. Carlos, thank you for 19th MMV. Thank you for reading, Rie. It was super nice. I hope so. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye. Otsu, good day, Hime. Have a very, very, very lovely rest of your... what do you call? Rest of your night? Your morning? Wherever it is in your time zone. Quebec, thank you for your as well. This was fun. Thanks, Rie. Thank you too. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Good night. Good night. Or good day. Bye-bye.